Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. It is Monday, September 20th. We have two items on our agenda. The first one is order number 21-100-8344, a communication from Attorney Falk on behalf of Marlborough Industrial LLC regarding a proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650, Section 5, and Section 1836 by adding hobby vehicle storage as a warehousing use in the limited industrial district. We have a letter from the planning board that we received. It has not been officially on our agenda, but we do have it. I will read that letter. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, at its regularly scheduled meeting on 9/13/21, the board took the following action regarding the above referenced council order. On a motion by Mr. Fay, seconded by Mr. LaVenture, the board voted to make a favorable recommendation to the City Council for the amendment to Chapter 650, Section 5 and Section 1836. The motion carried. The board provided the following reasons in reaching its recommendation. The developer established the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. In the planning board's opinion, approval of the zoning amendment would not be overly burdensome to the neighbors. The developer established the proposed zoning amendment would provide the city with a type of warehousing use that is not already available in the city, and that the zoning amendment would benefit the city. The developers established the proposed zoning amendment would be keeping with the intent and purposes of the city zoning ordinance. If the City Council sees fit to approve the zoning amendment, the Planning Board would suggest the following limitations. Strictly prohibit commercial automotive sales in the definition of hobby vehicle storage. Multiple board members expressed concerns that the new definition could be exploited in the future by a business seeking to sell such vehicles in an indoor setting. Sincerely, Barbara Finby, Chairperson. Attorney Falk, you want to do a quick PowerPoint, make some remarks, and then we can open this up?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The PowerPoint that I have is fairly simple. What you see is what you're going to get. It is indoor warehouse use, indoor only. And our definition of hobby vehicle storage, we try to be very clear that nothing is happening outdoors. And I appreciate the comments from the Planning Board. I just wanted to note that auto sales are expressly prohibited in the limited industrial district anyway. So this use would be under the warehousing use, separate category entirely from auto sales, which again are prohibited in the limited industrial district.
Right, we received a request from where's my copy of the letter? Sorry, for some reason I do not have what I wanted here anymore. I'll have to find it from the letter we got from, all right, it came from the Carol D. Oliveria, who is on the Stevens Family Foundation. Okay. Did she, I don't know if she had sent you a copy. Receiving this, at least for me, brought up some concerns. The letter reads, "Thank you for the opportunity to submit this letter to read aloud to the committee members. The primary goal for the Stevens Family Foundation Museum is to establish a central location from which to conduct meetings to facilitate and promote the Foundation's 501c charitable work. However, this unique location affords us the opportunity to combine the management needs of the Foundation with an extensive area to display and house many items from our unique collections, ranging from rare and unusual watches from all over the world to authentic Star Wars memorabilia to an actual 1966 first LX Batmobile licensed by DC Comics. Many of these items are utilized for events and fundraisers to promote awareness for various worthy causes. It is our hope that this museum will engage the community, encourage education, and perhaps even inspire others to embrace philanthropic endeavors, all while raising awareness by honoring, empowering, and improving the lives of those with special needs so that they are seen as the gifts they are. So I guess this letter implies to me their desire to do more than warehouse vehicles. And so do you know if in fact their plans are to do more than that?
I can't speak for them here representing Capital Group. What I will say is the use category that the buyer was looking for was a warehousing use, which is why we're seeking this amendment.
Okay.
What other uses of the property would still be subject to the zoning ordinance. So what the zoning ordinance allows and disallows would still stand.
All right. I did talk to the solicitor briefly. Unfortunately, he was not able to come tonight. I don't know if city councilors have questions. You all received this copy. I know it came in late, but it did raise some flags to me, and I guess I almost want to postpone a decision until maybe we can have a further communication from the Stevens family to know that the changes that we're making are strictly for them to store the vehicles there and then not use that site as any kind of a facility for them to do fundraising events of any kind or to even store anything except vehicles. Anybody else have that concern? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. To be honest, it's a storage facility, and it's somewhat of a, I wouldn't say it's, will we allow the display of collectibles within the facility? Maybe we can stretch the definition. I don't see much with that. I see more of an issue of just making sure that everything that is there is actually insured properly, because once everyone knows something's there, I want to, there's got to be a reasonable security level for what the type of material and the cost of the stuff that's being stored there. But as far as hobby vehicles go, I think that I do have a couple of questions. First is, are these vehicles registered or insured? Okay, that, a hobby is a hobby vehicle registered or insured. And I want to make sure that the definition of a hobby vehicle is a wheeled land vehicle and not some other type of vehicle. Also, we can take this as a framework as a first pass, specifically understanding what's being put into this facility. If someone else wants to put something similar in another light industrial location, then we can come back and revisit the definition to expand it if necessary. So, if you're going to have all these things in storage, to have them on display, I don't see as being much of a big step in that direction. So, either it just means they're going to be on display where they're being stored. But the other issue, I want to make sure, that there's issues about if gasoline's being stored there. These are vehicles. Is there going to be, tanks of gasoline or something like that? Or is there gasoline, a lot of vehicles that are in long-term storage don't even have gasoline in their tanks. So I'd just like to understand and clarify what's going on with that, because that can lead to fire explosions and stuff because of what's going on in Hudson with the collectibles for the military museum that they have. If there are military vehicles being collected here, which would be covered under the definition, we shouldn't include ammunition. So something like that I would prefer to see within the definition of not being included. The other issue, as far as, a lot of these older vehicles get restored. It turns out that one of my neighbors, when I was growing up, had a hobby of restoring Ford Model Ts. They came in as rust buckets, and they got to be really well done. I don't see this as being a restoration location, and I want to make sure that, hobby vehicle storage, light maintenance work, sure, minor repair, where does that stop and become restoration needs to get clarified. Those are the issues that I really see as concerns that we need to get addressed. And I have no problems if it takes more than one session of our council hearings to actually go through this.
That's, and I guess I agree. I will open it up before I can do my comments to anybody else who has concerns about the specific language or the letter we received. Councilor Wagner?
Yeah, I'm still not clear on, because the letter talked about meetings, so meetings to facilitate, so there's meetings where I see, you know, a handful of people planning the next event. The items are stored there. Are the items then taken somewhere else for a show? Is the idea that they'll be displayed in a way that this will be sort of a museum, that people will have events and large crowds will come? And I guess I'm still not really sure about this specific application. And then I think Councilor Doucette made some good points. Within this context, it sounds very reasonable, but to just simply add hobby vehicle storage, I hadn't thought about like a hobby. What if a hobby vehicles, things like tanks, is there, you know, explosives with it? Are the gas tanks full? I think taking it out of this context for this specific issue and just looking at this in general, knowing this could be replicated elsewhere, I'm not sure if the language is clear enough to what is and is not allowed in the location.
Anybody else?
Could I help? Could I answer any questions for you at all? I happen to be here. I'm just representing my daughter, the World Ambassador, the Down syndrome. And you're talking about tanks and everything like that. It's my personal kind of question. It's not going to be.
But this is not just for you, so for now, I think we're just
I
having
thought
a
you said
discussion
there's
among
anyone else
ourselves.
that had any information, and I think I do, but no, go ahead.
Okay. Other counselors? Councilor
Well, Madam Chair,
Lambert?
what harm would it be if we did delay this until one more meeting?
I don't think there's any harm. I think if we can get clarification, and maybe the best way, I mean, you're here for the developer of the property, not specifically the specific person who is requesting this property. But we can tie it all in, I think, with some answers for the one we know wants to go there. But I think the concern is this will be in the code that then will affect anybody for any other location that fits. And so there are some concerns. I think, to me, vehicle is vehicle. It's not weapons unless they happen to be attached to. So maybe that's a clarification. Councilor Landis.
Just to add to that, this is the first, and I think we ought to get it right.
Yes, I think you're right. Councilor Nabin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I would offer is there's some discussion about whether or not these hobby vehicles will have gasoline in them. The other special permits that we've already authorized are for masonry yards, landscaping yards, that will contain large trucks that will have full gas tanks and things like that. So we just want to make sure we point that out and are thinking about that when we're moving forward with other buildings that we're permitting.
Yeah, you're right. And I think this use is a little bit different than the landscaper and the masonry. Obviously, those vehicles are going to be going in and out of that property on probably not an hourly basis, but and those vehicles need to have gasoline in them. My understanding of a warehouse is those vehicles will sit there. And the question of whether they're licensed or not, I don't know. I know there are rules for people who store their vehicles over the winter even, that you take the battery out, you drain the tank, and then you're ready to pull it back out of a garage in the summertime when you want to drive that car that you don't want sitting in the snow and slush. So the whole terminology of warehousing to me is different than a showroom for vehicles that are being sold or even taken out. So I think we have a lot of questions that need to be answered, maybe, even the repair piece of this. Councilor Ossing, you're looking like you don't have your hand up, but
No, I was waiting for you to finish, Madam Chair. Thank you. So, again, personally, as a hobby vehicles, if you want to tweak the definition a little, I'm okay storing them inside. As a storage location, I'm good with. My concern is what happens if it's going to be a showroom And what are the tax implications to the city if it now becomes 501c residence versus a taxable piece of property for the city? So I have no objections to waiting a week to get all those questions answered and ferreted out, and you can make a decision. As far as storing hobby vehicles, I'm good with that. It's not no issues. Thanks.
All right, and I know there are probably lots of other people who may collect farm tractors as a hobby. They would be a vehicle.
You had a 59.
And you might want to store them. And then what you do with them later, I don't know. I guess that's kind of the iffy part of this. So is there other questions, other concerns? If not, maybe a motion to postpone? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think the issue is, it's not just now a storage, but it's, display. So if this is going to be a location where, the material, the collectible material will be on display, then yeah, that becomes a different type of definition than simple storage. So I think we need to definitely make sure we get that clarified. And aside from that, I'll motion to postpone?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Mr. Falk?
Yes, I just want to note, and thank you for your comments. I think a couple tweaks to the language, and I've got some in mind, will help clarify these items. I agree. In terms of the operations of the use, I would note that the use is still subject to site plan approval. So the full site plan committee will have an opportunity to make sure that we've got floor drains and all the other things that would need to be in place in terms of fire safety and making sure that it's a properly conducted facility. So the use would still be subject to site plan approval for sure. The only thing I'd note in terms of timing is that given when the hearing was, the vote would have to take place at the council's October 4th meeting. I know we still have another meeting before then, but in terms of when the vote would have to take place, it would be by October 4th.
All right, my count had it October 18th, so maybe I should check my count.
We'll just check with the solicitor.
Yep.
Okay, but yes, I am aware that we do have a deadline as a code change. So we will get another meeting set up as soon as possible, and if you can work with the person who wants to build at least this specific one to find out some answers, and we'll be happy to take this back up again.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Councilor Doucette, you were going to move to postpone?
Motion to postpone.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to postpone. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. We will find a time to get this back on the agenda and hopefully have some questions answered from both the solicitor, maybe the building department, and Attorney Falk. All right, the second item on our agenda is order number 21-100-8372, a request for approval of 2 flat roof signs for Val's Plaza, 561 Boston Post Road East in the Wayside Zoning District. I know I saw Mr. Valchis. Do you have the sign company here, or are you representing? No, all right, if you would like to come around up into the well. I did go out there, I think when this first came in, I took some pictures, which I then sent to Mr. Kerrigan to be able to have on the screen to kind of give everybody an idea if you haven't had a chance and don't know where this is. So the first picture that he's got up on there is the building looking from the far left where there's no signage, no indication of what's there. You want to, sorry? Okay, yeah, you kind of did just, this is the 2 of the signs that are currently there, the little store and the beer and wine, and the same view of the little store closer to that far left. The next one, I think, is 2 other signs, 2 existing people, Plum Tomato and Up to Me. And I think that's the, I was trying to get a picture of the sign at an angle to see that it's one of those on the gambrel roof so that the sign stands up, it's not flat. That's the building. From a distance to kind of see, you can tell the vacancy that's there, or not, where there are no signs. That's where the proposal is for the 2 new signs. One of them will be a value storage sign, and one of them is simply a store for rent sign. They are with us because this is the Wayside District, and we approve signs. And they're asking to have them illuminated, which is the more specific issue. The other signs are illuminated currently.
Since the plaza's been there, the signs have been illuminated. These particular signs that are there now were done in 2019. We got permits. The signs, and I have pictures of the signs previous to that, and the two stores that don't have signs, the only reason they weren't put up at that time was we had all different signs. They were lit. The stores themselves, my tenants, really didn't want to change the signs. They were bigger than these signs, and I just thought it didn't look uniform. It didn't look well, so I said I would pay for all the signs. So I bought 4 signs. Those signs are 102 inches by 36 inches, so they're 25.5 square feet. The signs that were there before those signs were running, they were 10 feet by 3 feet, and there was even a couple of bigger ones, so they were 30 square feet. I just at the time didn't have, you know, a tenant in one building, and the other building, someone was just moving out. It was, we had a garment cleaner sign, which I have pictures of that sign. I can give one to everyone here. And then the other one was China Garden. I was actually going to bring the signs here tonight, just the faces, but they're a little heavy. So, but I have the previous signs that were there. I can show them, you know, bring them to any location you want so you can see what was there. And I guess I got a little confused because I went for the permits, we got the signs, and now we just want to put up the other 2 signs to be uniform with those signs. And I got a little confused. Would you each like to see?
Well, I think for the existing signs, we're not worried about those. What we care about are the 2 proposed new ones, which are the specific applications. And the application, it actually says face replacement only. So to me, there are no signs up for you to replace a face.
The boxes were old that were there.
Okay.
So the other thing was, I redid the whole roof, and I put windows. I did AZACs on the building. I was at a Marlborough Economic Development Council meeting, and they had my store on a table, what they could do to make it better or what it could be. So at the time, I said, well, I didn't get any grants from the city. I'm a small businessman, and I try to keep my property up. So taking the lead from the suggestions, I went out and I've spent a lot of money. And part of it, when I took the signs down, they were all rusted inside, and the wires weren't good. So I wasn't going to put the boxes up, and, you know, quite frankly, the other signs, like in this picture, you'll see the little store. He had a big sign, huge. It said beer and wine. I mean, I don't know how big it was. I mean, it was hard to get it off the building. I had to get a small crane. And so, you know, I figured I was doing a good thing by putting new signs, new cases so that we didn't have any electrical issues. And so, you know, at the time, like I say, it was expensive, so I just figured when I got a little extra money, I would put the other 2 signs up. And I kept the old faces. You know, there were signs there, they were lit. I mean, it's just a timing issue, and it's always been there. And I go down, you know, I mean, like if Target all of a sudden their sign got old, they can't replace their sign, and fix it and have it illuminated. So I'm a little confused, but I can pass these out.
If I can understand you, Mr. Velch, there were signs there where there are no signs. You took everything down and had the roof redone and then put some of them back, but not those two.
But I could have brought the faces tonight. There's a garment cleaner sign, and one of them even on this picture, and there's a China Garden sign. It's two signs. I mean, I can call my worker right now. He'll bring the signs up, and the two of us can carry them in.
No, I think that does help at least understand why this sign application says face replacement only, when to me there's not a sign to replace a face. And I guess the whole issue, the illumination part, I believe there must have been some discussion by Councilor Ossing, because I received a copy of an email that came from Pam Wilderman that I'll just briefly read. If I can find where it just went. Where I had quite a discussion this morning with our electrical inspector, John Kane, regarding the issue of the signs and the interior lighting. John had some interesting considerations regarding the suggestion of changing the lighting to overhead gooseneck lights. John was adamant that those types of lights are not efficient, as they are incandescent, but they also do not retain their appearance for very long. The bulbs burn out frequently. The units themselves frequently fail and detach from the building from rust. Additionally, the new box lights, such as plum, tomato, are LEDs and will last for several years on top of being more efficient. Moving forward, more companies will be using solar to power these lights. It's John's opinion that the use of gooseneck outside lighting will in the long run look worse given past issues. So I think that we had another plaza also on Post Road where we approved the signs that were being illuminated without issues. For me personally, I don't mind the fact that they're illuminated. I have an issue with approving one for a sign that will go up advertising that it's for rent. I saw Councilor Wagner had her hand up. Do you have questions? Or, I'm sorry, Councilor Doucette, you also did?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the one for rent is, eventually the goal is to fill it. It's just more of a placeholder than anything else for that, so that's how I see it.
If the word for rent bothers me, even if I just put the white plastic with nothing, but I do have someone probably within 2 or 3 months is going to put a restaurant there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I miss China Garden, just to let you know.
Well, I think this one's going to be burritos.
Okay, ooh, that sounds interesting, okay. But I think that the issue here for this mall is consistency. And there's already existing of this style, and you're working towards maintaining the consistency across the entire mall. So I think that that is to the benefit of the city. And to, you know, I know that there was a prior ordinance as far as, you know, backlit lighting, but I think in this case, it's, you know, if we actually enforce that here, these two would look awkward compared to the rest of the mall, and I don't think that that's a good show for the city. So I have no problems in supporting both of these as it is, and we may want to just revisit how we do sign lighting in the Wayside District, just to make sure it's good, because it's absolutely true that the gooseneck lights and all those, they don't, you know, that's the old school stuff. And the other lights that we had on the other mall, those were much more advanced than these, where it's just a panel. Those were basically molded lights, which are the most efficient, because each of the letters are individual lights instead of a panel. So, you know, as far as energy efficiency goes. So I said my piece, and I'm willing to approve this if
Councilor
necessary.
Wagner?
I would just echo that too. I think it looks much nicer, the old sign with the big beer and wine on it and the yellow. This looks really uniform. Having additional 2 signs, it just finishes the plaza. I think it looks really good. The technology, like you said, it doesn't make sense to put something in that's going to rust and deteriorate really fast and isn't efficient. So keeping it the same, another two, and I think from like what Councilor Doucette said, that's how I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, having the store that's not filled and having a store for rent, that'll be replaced when the new business comes in, and then they just put their sign in that spot,
They just
right? Yeah,
put their, whether it's China Garden or, whatever, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I guess that brings up a whole nother issue in, I know it's specifically at Apex, which is also the city council, is the sign approving authority. You will recall a sign that exists that is being changed has to come back to this body for approval. So he can't take that store for rent sign and just simply change it out without coming back for approval of this body first. So if in fact you have a tenant coming in, are we smarter to not approve anything now? Because maybe it's only me, but I don't really want glaring lights advertising a store for rent sign as I go down Route 20.
Can I put the sign up with just the white plastic and don't turn it on? Just because when the new customer comes in, they're gonna have to put their own face anyway. But it's the box is up there, it's ready to turn on with a switch. And it's more economical right now for me to get the two signs and have them put up and at least finish, and it is uniform. I mean, I would, they'd have to get their own sign and get a permit
I guess
for,
my
what
concern,
their
Mr.
business
Velches, is what we have before us is approval for two separate signs. Come on, slide. One of them is specifically for a sign that says value storage.
Yes.
And one is specifically for a sign that says store for rent.
Yes.
If we approve these, then we have no ability to tell the building department that, no, you really can't put the store for rent sign, you're only putting a clear plastic, because we're approving what you requested.
I can't change what I request because of what I'm, I'm trying to accommodate what I'm hearing.
We are voting on a very specific building permit, and again, the solicitor's not here, nobody is here from the building department, and maybe I'm the only one with the issue. This does also have to go to the full city council. So is there a discussion by anybody else? Maybe we just need to get motions and see where it goes. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would echo a couple of the comments that Councilors Doucette and Wagner made. I do think consistency is important here. A lot of effort has been made to improve the plaza. As Mr. Velches said, the new roof looks great. The new posts, getting some business in there, especially, at that entrance to the city, is helpful. I am less inclined to want to penalize him for having to do 2 mobilization costs just to get the sign boxes up there. So I would agree that it would be nice if between now and then we could find a way to clarify the language for the sign for rent, especially because he's not overly committed to or being adamant rather about having that up there, but rather to get the boxes up there. So I don't have any issues with the boxes going up, even if that one stays off, if we can figure out a way to do that between now and then.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious. I hate to say this, but if one of the stores to the left, say, went out of business, could Mr. Velches put a sign on that for rent, as he could on a window on the storefront? I don't know if we.
I'm going to say code enforcement would cite him as soon as he did that, because they know that he didn't get a sign permit.
That's such an acceptable way of letting the public and future tenants know that a building is available. So
I believe
so you think
that
that's the purpose of regulation there?
I believe that you can get a temporary sign advertising that a building is vacant. They are easy to apply for. I know if you drive by Thalia, they have a big banner on their building for lease. I questioned it. It's like, why? Because it's temporary, and they can have them. They're only allowed for a certain amount of time. So he can have a sign on his building that says that one of his sites is for rent or for, but not
Can he
a,
have it up on the roof?
I would say no, not without a permit, but
See, that practice is almost acceptable.
yeah, unfortunately, these
Everywhere.
are. Counselor Ossing.
Thank you,
any-
Madam Chair. So any counselor wants to make a name for him or herself and wants to take up the sign ordinance, God bless you.
No.
I'm telling you, we spend more time on a sign ordinance. So here's an entrepreneur that's coming in and trying to make his business, as Councilor Doucette and Wagner said, look consistent all the way across. We shouldn't be busting his chops. Approve the signs, all right? The for rent one, you know, we don't want it to be for rent forever. We hope he gets someone in there to fill his store. But for what's before us, if you want to change it, Madam Chair, you can put a thing that says, don't put the for rent one up, just put a clean piece of plexiglass in, or white, or whatever it is, so it's just white, but not turned on, that's fine. But we'll spend more time working on this sign than we will discussing taxes in 2 months. I'll tell you that right now. And who are we hurting? The individual that's trying to make a buck, all right? So ask yourself, as Councilor Doucette and Wagner said, does it make sense to have it uniform all the way across the building? Yep, it does, all right? And if he's gonna change the signs, he's gotta come back to us anyway. And whoever's gonna take on the sign ordinance, get us out of the business of signs, all right? I mean, God bless you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, is there a further discussion? Is there a motion? Counselor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. For sake of argument, I do a motion to approve the 2 flat roof signs for Boston Post Road and just get it out of committee.
All right, if there's no objection, I'm going to take a vote separately because they are 2 separate sign permits, just for ease of
Perfectly fine.
discussion, if necessary, later on at the council floor. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the installation of a flat roof sign reading value storage. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And the other one is for a flat roof sign, hope I went too far, that says for rent. Is there further discussion on the store for rent sign? All those in favor? All right, you've convinced me that, let's go with it. All right. So these will be reported out at our next agenda. They will probably just lay on the table, and then we'll vote on them at the following meeting, and see what happens for that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vouches. All right, that is our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are adjourned at 7:12. Moving right along.